really wonderful piece by Cecilia McDowall called Vespers in Venice. And this was taken from a set of 4 pieces, all based on really creative and imaginative images. And this one in particular was based on a painting called Approach to Venice by William Turner. And what I'm going to do is show you that painting now, which I think is a really good idea to do with your pupil before you start learning the piece. So hopefully on the right of the painting here you can see the pale gold colours of the fading day, and where the darker colours are at the left, it's sort of showing the beginnings of nightfall. And if you look into the distance there, you can also see the outline of Venice and St. Mark's Cathedral, which is going to be really important in the music, as McDowall actually based part of this piece on Monteverdi's Vespers, which we'll look into a little bit more later on. And you can also see the water melting into the horizon there, which sort of reflects the nature of the music. Another really inspiring starter activity before your pupil begins learning this piece is to listen to Monteverdi's Vespers, as there are direct links to the Vespers within this piece. And you will hear the lilting rhythm of the singers and the wonderful orchestration and all of those beautiful sounds, which I think McDowall could imagine sort of floating through the air in that evening scene in Venice. So how to actually approach this? Now, I think first of all it would be really good to start exploring a totally different sound world with your pupil. This is going to be probably unlike most things that they've been playing. So I think sort of preparing them for that would be a really good idea. And one of the things that's really important is just really to use your ears and just to start really listening to those wonderful sounds that escape the piano when you're playing some of these dissonances and these interesting harmonies. So, for example, I would probably choose a scale that is used later on in this piece and use the sustaining pedal and actually just hold it on all the way through and try something like this. So that sound? So I think that's a really good question for your pupils. Can you hear that sound? And getting them really used to hearing those dissonances. So also an idea when I was playing that, so I was sort of flicking the note like this, and the idea is to create this bell-like sound, and I think that's a type of imagery you could use all the way through your teaching, this idea of bells and St. Mark's Cathedral on the horizon. So I think when you do this, it helps you really get into the depth of the key and make the sound ring out. And you could try this in the bass as well. And then perhaps not even start at the beginning. There is a part, so bar 23, bar 24, where there are some wonderful bass notes. And you can really try and create this bell sound here. And there's lots of places with accents in this piece where I think that's what McDowall was trying to create. Also, we get this crashing of the bells. And then you can play the bass note. So plug here. And I take this with both the line and the top line with my right hand here. And then get used to hearing that kind of space. And then you go to the next section. I think the idea of space is really important, and it's trying to get your people to really listen to those harmonics and creating this idea of stillness. I imagine in McDowall's scene and imagery of Venice, it's a sort of still, very calm evening and sort of hazy and intangible like that painting. So trying to get them to wait really quite a long time in those pauses, keep the listener, keep their attention. The next thing I would look at quite carefully is the rhythm at the beginning, and actually I think it can be quite complicated to work out at first, but a really useful way to look at it is if you use a metronome, but rather than setting it to the crotchet, you could double that and subdivide it into quavers. So I'm going to set it to 100. And then your pupil can really see how long that first note actually is. You've got this wonderful dissonant bass note. And I think it's a good idea to work that out first. But you're learning the rhythm, you then sort of almost have to unlearn the rhythm to make this sound really mysterious like that painting. And McDowall does mention the fact that this is played freely. So I think that's really important, this use of rubato. So you've had your long note. I actually use the middle pedal here, but this is fine with the sustaining pedal. I actually hold it all the way through this section. And sort of creeping in a little bit more mysteriously. And then really taking your time there. It's written in, you have that poco ritenuto, but really exploring the use of rubato there. So there are some more difficult passages, lots of scalic work, and here I like to encourage the use of imagery again. Think of that water and that haziness sort of blurring into the horizon. And I think we really need that fluidity in these scales. What you could do is use that scale from earlier on, get your pupil to practice the left hand. And it's sort of a modal scale, which again comes back to this idea of St. Mark's Cathedral and that wonderful church-like music. And it's getting your pupil used to hearing that kind of scale as well as their majors and minors. Now, at the same time, in bar 21, there is a D major scale, so you've got this. And I think the idea is to try and practice this first before your pupil even attempts this section. So you could get them to play a left hand modal scale, and then in the right, just a fourth above, play the D major scale. It may be possible that they've never played a scale in fourths, and therefore it's really good to get used to that sound. So I'm going to play you the last part of this music now, and hopefully if you've listened to the Monteverdi's Vespers, you will spot that theme which sort of cuts through the mistiness. I hope you enjoy learning this piece. I certainly have. It's very, very special, very creative.